Oh, I think the audience missed out. Good evening. And welcome to Sporlitics, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Stephen, the independent thinker, Keith, the constitutional conservative, and my cousin Todd. Oh my gosh, a heat wave travels around the world, and Europe and Great Britain adjust to buckling airport runways, and the United States braces for excessive heat warnings. NASCAR with Steven as he discusses Christopher Bell's win in New Hampshire. President Biden is preparing for executive action on climate control after West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin made other moves. The BA.5 variant is rapidly spreading and infecting and hospitalizing more people than you think. The January 6th panel has subpoenaed the Secret Service for text messages that they erased. MBS hits back at Biden after the president confronts the Saudi prince about Khashoggi. The family of Andrew Tekel Sundberg calls for release of police footage after fatal shooting. Brittany Griner was prescribed medical cannabis for severe chronic pain, her lawyers tell the Russian court. Almost 50 House Republicans joined Democrats to pass a bill codifying marriage equality and more if we can fit it in. First up, NASCAR with Steven. Steven, Christopher Bell, new young guy, right? He looks like a new young guy. I don't know.
Yeah, he looks like he's 13.
Yeah, he looks really, really, really young.
He's been there a couple of years.
Has he?
Yeah.
So I'm going to play that video. If I can find my video file. This is a new format, y'all. You got to be patient with me. Having issues finding this video.
This is a great new format. Great new one.
All
this
right.
will be
Christopher Bell, the second NASCAR Cup Series win of his career and his first ever Cup win at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The number 20 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing took the checkered flag and with this win puts himself into the NASCAR playoffs. The 27-year-old becomes the 14th different winner of the season. It was a great finish as he wins the Ambetter 301 and takes home Loudon, the Lobster. Your first Cup win in New Hampshire, just tell me what's going through your mind right now.
Just in shock. You know, I'm very proud to be the driver of this Joe Gibbs Racing number 20, and Adam Stevens has been doing such a good job this whole season to get me cars capable of winning, and I didn't feel great about it at the beginning of the race. You know, we struggled, just couldn't quite keep our track position, struggled on the short run, struggled on restarts, and then at the end of the race, that's the best my car was all day.
Loudon the Lobster, 21 pounds of lobster. You ever seen anything like that? What'd you think of it?
I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. No, it's pretty heavy after 300 miles here, that's for sure.
Dinner?
Maybe. I'm not much of a seafood guy, but might have to try lobster out one day.
Martin Truex Jr. won the pole on Saturday, and he led the majority of the race on Sunday, but it wasn't enough. Let's hear from him, as well as some of the other drivers.
It's just Loudon for us. I've gotten beat here on 2 tires before. You know, got 4 and come out 3rd and couldn't get beat. Get beat by 2. I've been beat by 4 now. It's just, whatever it is, it's frustrating.
It was a poor job on my end, but I had a fast lap for Chevy again. Proud of that. But I need to do a better job. Finishing these things off.
Qualifying was good, and we made minor adjustments throughout the race and just kept us up near the front and made a really good call on adjustment there on the last stop and just made the most of it. So just proud. Happy? Not really, I'm just proud.
So another awesome race is in the books at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We will see you next year from the Magic Mile. In Loudon at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Mike Cronin, News 9 Sports.
All right, Stephen.
Christopher Bell won the race. He came out of nowhere. Martin Truex led almost the whole thing, and he was pretty upset. He was one interviewed second, where he really should have won this race. Had the most laps, dominated from start to finish almost, and Bell just came out and won the race. And Bell is, to me, he's a really good driver. He's up and coming, but he's like a video game race car driver. So what he's done his entire life was play video games and learn how to drive a car through that instead of driving a car. And he doesn't really have the personal skills to make it a better spokesman for the sport. Because when he won the lobster, they see this huge lobster he's holding up. They should say, "Well, you gonna have lobster tonight?" You say, "Yo, I can't wait to throw it in the pot, and we're gonna eat this, and all my boys are gonna come over, and we're gonna drink beer, and we're gonna eat lobster, and we're gonna have a great time." That's what it's about, and having fun and having the crowd go crazy. He's like, I don't know about one lobster. I was like a little spoiled little kid. It's just to me, he just rubs me the wrong way. He's just not a lot of fun, and I don't want him to be fake. I mean, if that's how he is, that's how he is. But to me, he could just have a little more fun after he won. He's like, I won the race. Okay. It's like a Stepford race car driver. It's like he has no emotion, no heart to put into anything. He's like, I won the race.
He's never eaten seafood. He doesn't like
what's
seafood.
Up with that? I'm gonna tell you what, that lobster's a little big. I don't know if it's good, but in the right time of the year, when you go up north like that and you get some lobsters, they'd be the best lobsters you ever got if you get them at the right time of the year. Now, and like I said, that one's a little big. I would still eat it, but it might be a little aged, but it might still be good.
Oh. Todd likes lobster, I'll bet.
Todd, you like lobster?
No, ma'am.
I didn't think so. He's not eating crustaceans, right, Todd?
Never you mind what I eat.
Okay. So, Stephen, what's coming up next week?
We have Pocono next week, which is right where y'all are. You and Todd should go to Pocono. It's not that far from you. It's a great race. It's a huge track, and it's like a weird shaped triangle, and it's like over 2.5 miles, maybe 2.66 miles or something. But it's huge, and it's a lot of fun, and I would love to go that race one day. It would be nice.
All right,
so you're
I'm
not
having
that
some
far
technical
from
difficulties.
it. Huh? Oh, you can hear me?
What I heard him perfectly. What is the problem?
Oh, I know what's wrong.
What's wrong?
It must be on Stacy's end because she's not
Stacey,
listening.
can you hear us?
I don't think so.
Can you hear me? You can hear me,
Yes.
can't you?
Yeah.
Yes. You can't hear us.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Testing.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Keep going.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Okay. All right. Let me. I
Take
think
over.
Stacey should stop. We'll take over. Okay. Can you hear me?
Take over.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Now let's move on past.
All right, I can't hear you guys. Todd, can you take it until I can hear you all? I can't hear you.
We're going to move on to Miss Griner, who's in Russia right now.
Unbelievable.
We're going to move on to Miss Griner, who's in Russia, in prison. Now, she pled guilty to having some kind of cannabis, which was prescribed by her physician.
In Russia?
No, that was a doctor in the United States.
Well, that's what matters.
It. Okay.
Testing your speakers, it sounds like they're working. Have a great show. Testing your speakers and string your...
You can hear that? I can't hear y'all.
Stacy just wants to hear something. Stacy just wants to hear something.
Anyway, I think it's a disgrace how they're.
So, okay, I'm going to move on because I can't hear you all. I could hear you earlier, but I can't hear you now.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Let me plug this back in.
Todd was doing pretty good, Stacy.
Yeah, you had it going on, Todd.
Guys. All right.
We're talking about that girl in Russia.
Well, I guess it's kind of good I can't hear you because y'all
We
crazy.
might start cussing.
Whatever she did last time,
Okay.
what she should do this time.
Who, Stacy
Now I
or the Russian?
finally,
Okay.
now I can hear you. Thank you.
See,
I don't know
see.
what was going on.
Remember
So
what
yeah,
you remember what you did, so that you'll know if it happens again.
right. Well, Brittany Griner was prescribed uh, medical cannabis, and she told that to her jailers in Russia. However, they're not letting her out. Cousin Todd, is that an excuse for her to, I guess, get off from having this cannabis in her suitcase that wasn't opened?
No.
She
wasn't.
pleaded guilty. She pleaded guilty, because she had it. She said it wasn't her intention. But she's saying, look, I had a medical
Reason.
note. I got a note from the doctor. Right? Cousin
Right.
Todd. She got a
That's not going to
prescription.
help her. And okay, now I'm going to talk. You've been interrupting the whole time. We've been having a conversation, but nevertheless, that's not going to help her because this is all a ruse anyway. I believe she's going to do a year or two until Russia allows her to go home via a trade for many Russians to one American. Though I think the Russians, they're dumb. Power grubbing people are usually dumb and they overplay their hand. And I think he's going to wait too long. Now, if he's smart, he'll do it within a year. But I think he's going to wait a little too long. And this is the United States of amnesia. So people will forget about her. And then their bargaining chip won't be as valuable. So he needs to make that move within a year. Because after that, people just simply forget. They're just not that interested. For example, can any of you name 3 kidnapped people who were released by the Russians? Exactly. Because
But they weren't famous.
But I guess that's his point.
No, this girl isn't.
She's
what you
famous.
call
She won't be forgotten.
No. Let's face it. She's not famous. You didn't know who she was until this happened. You
We
don't
know
watch
now.
the WNBA. So she was not famous in your eyes. So stop
She
it.
is now. She's famous.
They're all
You know what I
famous
think she
once
should
they-
have? You know what I think she should have when she comes back? She is going to eventually get out. She's going to come home. When she comes back, she should start her own cannabis line. Her own cannabis, whatever. I don't smoke cannabis, but whatever you smoke, and then the edibles and whatever stuff you use for cannabis, she should start her own line. And I bet you it probably would be very successful.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right, Keith?
But in the meantime, her release, like I was saying, should be sooner rather than later, because, like I said, people forget about you, and then your bargaining chip has lost its value. Though, like I said, I think they're dumb and they're not going to do it, and I think it's terrible for her to be used in this way. But here we are.
Well,
And
they
the
better.
president is.
Trump gets back in office. Yeah, they'll
And the
probably.
president is doing everything he can to get her released.
There's nothing Biden can do to get her released.
He's doing everything he can to get her
And
released.
there's nothing he can do.
He's weak.
Well,
No, I mean, I'm not saying he's weak. I'm saying we put Russia in a bad position. We're helping their enemy, right? We're helping Ukraine. So
Russia
they're not
in a
going to do
bad
anything. They're
position?
not going to do anything for us.
I don't know. Maybe you better retract that because that sounds quite ignorant. We
What?
put Russia in a bad position. We did nothing to Russia. That's
No,
nonsense.
but back in Ukraine, we're hurting Russia. We're putting Russia in a bad position because we're
We-
helping Ukraine
Again,
with
we're not doing
billions
anything
and billions
to
and
Russia.
billions and billions of dollars. Yeah,
You know,
we're hurting Russia.
Stephen,
So
you
we don't
are.
have any bargaining chips right now with
Oh my
Russia because
gosh,
we're hurting
Stephen, you
Russia.
sound
We're fighting
crazy.
a proxy war. We're fighting that war with our money and
Stephen,
our
you
weapons.
sound crazy.
I'm
So
telling the truth.
this is no. You've been listening to the dark web.
No,
When
I
you
don't know what the
say
dark web
we
is.
Are we
put
or not?
Russia in a bad position, Russia
Yeah.
is occupying another country. That's
And
what
we're
To this
helping
Russia's
that
day.
other
doing.
country.
And
We
it's
had,
affecting their children. They're occupying another country. It's affecting the children of
and we
Ukraine.
had
It's
nothing
affecting
to
the
do
people
with
of
that.
Ukraine. They
And
went back
Russia's
on their
children.
word.
And so what we do is protect them because we said we would. When we
No.
told them to get rid of their nuclear weapons and we would protect them, you don't know anything. Stephen,
We're
it's
not
like talking to a
obligated to protect
doorknob.
them. They're not in the UN
Oh
or
my
anything else.
gosh.
They're not part of us. We don't have to
Say,
protect
did
them
you
at
just
all.
hear what I said,
We're
Stephen?
not protecting them. We're
Did you
giving them
just hear what I
billions
said?
and billions and
We
billions of
told them
dollars.
we would protect them if they got rid of their nuclear weapons. Can you hear?
Yeah, but
Is
don't
anybody
you
home?
think that pisses off
And so
Vladimir
they got rid of
Putin?
their nuclear
Don't you think
weapons,
that pisses
and here
off
we
Russia?
are.
What doesn't it piss off Russia that we're
Okay.
helping the Ukraine?
Stacy, let's move on. And he's like so dense. This is what I've asked, and my mother has asked this question, and my grandmother, who was born in 1900, has asked this question. I'll never get an answer, I'm sure. Are you really that dumb, or are you pretending to be really that dumb? Go ahead, answer.
Oh, they're asking you this, right, Todd?
Ma'am,
Your
ma'am, ma'am.
grandmother and
Did
your
you
mother are
just hear
asking
what I
you
said?
this, right?
So
Are you
anyway,
that dumb? You're
when
projecting
we
upon me, Todd. That's what you're
when
doing.
we
Because you're not making any
tell
sense. What I'm
another
telling you is the
country,
truth.
when we
We're
tell
pissing
another
off
country
Russia.
that
We're
we will
pissing off
protect
Russia with our
them,
money. We're giving
But wait a minute.
Ukraine money. So we're pissing off
Yeah,
Russia.
but remember, Russia went, but wait, Stephen, Russia went against the agreement they signed with us and the Ukraine not to invade or attack Ukraine.
Exactly.
They went
Exactly.
against it.
So
So what does
we're
it matter if
helping
we piss
Ukraine.
them off?
Russia doesn't owe us the prisoner of war that they're keeping right now. She's a prisoner of war. They're not going to give her back to us because they're mad at us for being with Ukraine. How does that not make any sense? We're on Ukraine's side, so
you
Russia's
don't
mad
make
at
any
us.
sense,
So we don't
Stephen,
have any. We don't have
because
a bargaining chip to get her back
you're
now.
Stephen, you're used to Donald Trump, a conniver.
Nobody's
I said to
conniving.
you, the Americans promised Ukraine and Russia promised Ukraine, we will not attack you. Get rid of your nuclear weapons. They said, okay, we trust you.
Mhm.
Russia turned their back on them and attacked them. We
Exactly.
are not Russia.
With our
We are
permission.
keeping
Biden
our
said if
word.
they go in a little bit, they can go in a little bit. We're
Oh
okay
my
with Russia
gosh.
going in a little bit.
This
We're
is
not
what
going to do too
happens
much.
when
They gave
Donald
them-
Trump is
Biden
elected
gave Russia
president.
permission to attack
Everybody gets
Ukraine.
dumb.
Biden gave
Okay.
him permission.
Biden
Because
didn't give him
Biden can
permission,
blame
but
Russia for everything that's wrong right now in America. That's why he did
He
it.
just skipped over everything I said. This is what happens when you study the dark web. He skipped over all the facts, and he said, "Biden, give him permission."
Todd, you're the darkest thing on my web.
The permission.
all right, I'm going to move on.
went to the Russians.
All right, we're going to
have
move on.
I don't know the dark
highly
web. Keith, do you know dark
transmissible
web?
and immune evasive variant that's BA5.
The worst COVID subvariant so far is here, and doctors say the BA5 strain comes with more problems that impact all of us. Good evening. I'm Amma Dates.
I'm Larry Beal. Thanks for joining us. We've been dealing with COVID for more than 2 years. So why is this strain so much worse?
ABC 7 News reporter Stephanie Sierra is a member of our vaccine team, and she joins us live tonight to break down the top reasons doctors are concerned, Steph.
Yes, Alma, the BA5 variant is spreading so fast. Doctors say it's never been easier to get infected with COVID, even if you're vaccinated. Everything from heightened transmissibility to more severe symptoms. We're looking into the top 5 reasons why BA5 is shaping up to be the worst.
It's not often we hear California called a red state. But when it comes to COVID transmission, the CDC could not be more clear. Nearly every county across the state, with the exception of 6, is red, signaling high levels of COVID community transmission. That includes the entire Bay Area. So is a new surge coming?
Well, I think it is at least the second worst surge in terms of numbers.
The CDC estimates more than half of new COVID cases stem from Omicron subvariants, BA4 and BA5. But UCSF's Dr. Peter Chin-Hong explains why the latter is the one to worry about.
And the real superpower of BA5 is reinfections. And because BA5 is new, if you got infected like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was likely not BA5. So you're susceptible to reinfection.
Here's 5 reasons why BA5 could be the worst variant yet. First, preliminary evidence from the Kirby Institute in Australia shows false negatives on rapid antigen tests may be higher with BA5, and it could take up to 5 days to get accurate results.
So some tricks are certainly combining the throat and the nose, although not official. Repeating the test multiple times, which I know lots of people are doing.
Second, BA5 is the most transmissible variant out there, at least 20% more transmissible than Omicron, now tying or surpassing measles, the world's most infectious viral disease.
The more transmissible the virus is, the easier it is to get.
Even outside.
If you're in crowded outdoor spaces, it's very possible.
Third, symptoms of BA5 may be more painful.
People are reporting a lot more sore throat, like your throat is on fire, in particular with BA5. It wouldn't be so serious that you'll go to the hospital, but it certainly will be very uncomfortable.
The fourth and fifth reasons go hand in hand. COVID hospitalizations in California and the Bay Area are not overwhelming hospitals, but have reached the highest point since February. That paired with a blind spot of COVID cases. The White House cautioning several hundreds of thousands of new COVID cases are underreported each day. The question is, does all of this mean more restrictions like mask mandates could come back?
As we start to enter the fall, when people come indoors and schools are back in session, it's on the table. It's always a possibility.
An important reminder to add to that, Dr. Peter Chin-Hong says we are not currently in a surge yet, but it could be very soon. He described it as a holding pattern. So within the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to see any impact to hospitalizations, and that will likely drive any decision on additional restrictions like mask mandates. Ama?
Yeah, Steph, speaking of that, what are you hearing about any chance for additional restrictions like those mask mandates?
So from the San Francisco Health Department, they're saying for now they are strongly recommending masking indoors and in crowded public settings. That means outdoors too. So no mask mandates planned just yet. That's the case for most of the Bay Area counties we reached out to, all 9. But as always, that could change depending on what we see happen over the next couple weeks. So in the meantime, you can't be too careful.
Yeah, certainly. All right. Thank you, Stephanie.
So you can't be too careful, Keith. We'll start with you. You're out there in Los Angeles, California. Are you seeing an uptick in or a resurgence of mask mandates in your area?
Well, they're talking about it, and whenever these elites talk about it, then obviously that means that they're going to eventually in Los Angeles do that. But again, my question is, of course, I may not have the right to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Does this new variant respect the boundaries of maybe 100 feet? Like if I go, we have a lot of small cities in our county of Los Angeles is big, this is big. So that means if I go to the outskirts of the county and enter another city, does that mean that COVID respects that boundary? Because they're not wearing masks. Los Angeles wears them, but San Bernardino doesn't wear them. Let's see, West LA may not wear them. Let's see, Beverly Hills may not wear them. Let's see, other small cities like Culver City, they may not. Inglewood, they may not. So, I mean, I really don't know. Does this new variant respect those boundaries? And then again, another question is, if this is a stronger variant, which is what they said in the report, if this is a much stronger variant than the ones in the past, then why is it that when we wore masks in the past, that didn't stop it? So what makes you think that wearing a mask now is going to stop it, based on that logic?
Cousin
Stephen,
Todd, I'll let you address that.
You can
No,
answer.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
He can't answer it. Stephen.
The only way I can answer that is Shakamon Gandulumbai Supakaning Shu Pupanako Babai Tai.
See, Stephen?
Moving
I think
on.
he's speaking in tongues.
Yeah, and he calls everybody else stupid. And he's got the nerve to call
He's going to
everybody
be
else.
bringing out snakes soon and talking in tongues. You go,
So
Todd.
moving
We knew
on,
you'd come around.
this
is
This
Go
is
ahead, Cousin
Jerry
Todd.
Springer. This is
How's
they
this?
just came
No,
from the
this
Jerry
isn't
Springer
Jerry
show.
Springer.
We're just
Well,
playing
you
with
got
saying
two
their
Jerry
reaction.
Springer
We're
audience
just
members
joking.
on.
Just joking, man.
Let's move on to some important news
This
because
is important news. This is about to go through like wildfire. This is
they
very
don't
important.
they don't
Like
believe
a
that.
horse
So
named Wildfire.
you see, these are
Thank you.
Trump supporters, and you can't do anything with a Trump supporter
See, he can't give
except
an argument
get
against what
away from him fast.
Stacy. Notice he can't give an intelligent response to what I just said.
You
See,
didn't say anything
You weren't
except nonsensical
expecting that.
babble.
You weren't expecting that. You shouldn't bring it up. You're not
All right.
expecting an intelligent response.
So
But Stacy,
No, I'm not
Stacey,
going
can
to
I say
respond to
this?
him, but I'll respond to the study that's been done
thank you.
medically.
Stacey,
Now-
can I say this? Last week, before anybody was making a big deal out of this, do you remember what I called the BA5? The
What?
badass 5 is coming to get you. This is
See?
the badass 5.
see?
Just
You
in time
see?
for the election.
Do
Get
you
ready,
see?
cover up, because here comes the badass 5. That's why they call it BA5. Badass Baracus.
You
Badass.
see? And he's going to repeat that over and over and over
Yes,
again.
that's
because
why
the
they
dark
that's why they're
web
doing it,
taught
because
him
you're gonna
that.
be scared again. And you're
The-
gonna have to
the
do your
dark
mail-in
web taught him
voting
to
now.
do that.
You can't go
They say,
stand in
just
line
keep
and vote
repeating
because
yourself.
badass 5 is gonna interrupt
See?
that.
See?
This is
See?
another
He's
this is
going
the
to keep
same
repeating
tactic.
that. He's
This
going
is
to keep
Hollywood.
repeating that.
Can't they make new
Stacey,
movies instead of making
let's move
Rocky
on.
10?
Mute him.
Okay.
Jaws
all right.
10?
All right.
Can't they make a new movie?
Stephen, you gotta let Todd address it. Come on, Todd. You did just respond. So go ahead, Cousin Todd.
Please, Todd.
The BA5, that's a new variant. And this is what
Yeah.
happens when people don't get vaccinated. What
Yeah.
happens is they mutate. And so here we are again, mutating.
But he
This
said
is
the
the same.
vaccine didn't work. I mean, it didn't.
I don't know what he's saying.
Wait,
What are
you
you
gotta
saying?
let Todd finish, Keith. You gotta
All
let
right.
Todd finish.
Okay, and you can't listen to Trump supporters like him. He's very two-faced. He got the vaccine. His boyfriend didn't. So, nevertheless, this is a
I'm
cousin.
still alive.
Mm. And that's
Watch
the
it.
measure. I'm still alive. And nevertheless,
Pretty good.
No shots.
Good measure,
Okay.
Stephen.
well, what you're doing is hurting everybody else.
No, it's not.
So, nevertheless,
That's a falsehood on your part. There's no proof that what I'm doing is hurting anybody else.
Okay, we got Todd. You got to make your point. Wait a minute,
What-
Stephen. Go ahead, Todd. Go ahead,
So-
Todd.
So what they're going to do now is have these boosters that everybody should get. And hopefully you've already been vaxxed and boosted. And if that's the case, then you're pretty safe. You may get it, but you won't die from it. That's the point. So that you won't die or be hospitalized.
Can I say, Todd,
That's
that
the
my
reason
sister
for the vaccines. Not to say that you'll never get it, but you won't die or be hospitalized. Isn't that the whole point?
Can y'all hear me? My sister had COVID really, really bad because she's got the core mobilities. She's in
Oh,
really
no. She didn't have COVID. She didn't have
She had
That's
COVID.
She did not. That's a Democratic hoax.
No, I didn't say it was a hoax. I said when people are in really bad shape and they have COPD and they're overweight and they have issues, then they're in trouble. I keep myself healthy, so I'm not in trouble. I can get sick and I can get over it because I'm a healthy person.
Oh,
But some
so
people are
what
not
you're
healthy.
saying is,
But I'm not. But she had all of her shots, Todd. She had all of her shots, and she was hospitalized ICU for days because she's in bad shape, and because she's got all of her shots that are going to help you. She's still in bad shape. They let her out. but you can hardly recognize her when you talk to her. She's in really, really bad shape. And if these shots are so damn good, she should be talking like me right now, who's never got a shot and never got sick from it.
You
Okay,
just said,
so
you just contradicted yourself. You said she's in bad shape. She has COPD and
Yeah, she's got a lot of issues that are
well
bad.
then. That's the point.
But she still got all of her shots and all of her boosters and all of her boosters and all of her shots. And all of the Kingsmen couldn't put her back together again.
She's
I don't
not
understand
dead,
why
is she?
people would get all these shots and they're still going to be sick as hell. What's your point?
okay, so let me show you
you're
this. I'm
less
going to share
likely
this
to
with
die
you.
or be hospitalized. I've already
Okay,
said that.
so it says with a sniff or a swallow, new vaccines aim to put the brakes on COVID-19 spread. By Brenda Goodman, CNN.com, written Monday, July 18th at 9:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was updated. Injected vaccines against the coronavirus that causes COVID-19 have been hugely successful. As it continues to spread, you know, these vaccines have helped our immunity. But now they're trying to the hope is to shore up the defenses right there in the news, so the virus can't even replicate in the news. And then someone who has a really effective mucosal vaccination can't even really support viral replication or make viruses that can infect other people. Now, there are high risks and high rewards with mucosal vaccinations, but I think this is a very good step in the right direction. Do you agree, Keith?
Yes, it sounds good to me. I mean, but the report said, based on that report that you read or played, it said that vaccinations were not. It said that vaccinations have not stopped it. So all I'm saying is natural immunity is the best way to go, because it's I read a report and I sent
Then
it
why
to
did
you.
you get vaccinated?
I got.
He felt like he had to.
Do we have to go over this again?
He
Yes.
felt like he had to. He was in California and he was a teacher. He felt like he better get it or they're going to kick him out of school.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
It makes sense.
Nobody ever told him they're going to kick him out of school unless he gets this shot. That's against the
All
law.
right, Keith, you tell us. You tell us, Keith.
Let me answer your question. I got the vaccine because it was told to me by my supervisors and my principals at a school that I worked that you had to have, basically you got to get the vaccine or you can't come to work. Okay, so that's why I retired after I even got the shots. I did safe, and it was safe. I never
See,
got
your
COVID.
boyfriend is trying to help
You don't know what's going to happen in 10
avoid
years. You might grow another
the
head.
point.
I
Your
don't-
wife got the vaccine,
Steve,
and she was
you know,
not
Stephen,
forced.
I don't get it, Stephen. I got the vaccine. He's still not satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
So
Don't
what
matter
is
what you do. He's on the left. He's not going to be satisfied. You can't. Don't ever try
All
to
right.
please somebody like Todd. I don't care who you are. I
Yeah,
don't care
you
who you are. You're
couldn't.
not going to. Just do you.
I'm going
Just
to move
do you,
on.
Keith. Do you. Don't try to please him.
Okay. So he never answered your question, nor did he answer mine. His wife got the vaccine, and she wasn't working at that school, and it wasn't forced upon her, but she got it as well as Keith. So this is all
She might have been
Trump
scared
talk.
by all the propaganda. She might have been scared.
Todd, I thought you were for free choice. I thought you believed that everybody should be able to choose for themselves. I thought you
Not
were.
when it,
No, not me.
Not
Not
when
me.
it comes to women. They can't choose anything. They don't have a brain. Women should not be able to control their own bodies. Isn't that right, Republican?
You heard him, Stacey. You heard him.
All right, we're going to move on.
You heard him.
I heard Trump and the
As
rest
the
of the
nation
Republicans.
swelters through this heat wave, any immediate climate action is on the ropes after two stinging defeats. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin from Coleridge, West Virginia, today defending his decision to block President Biden's climate legislation, including tax incentives for wind and solar power and electric vehicles. Manchin says it calls for spending that will send inflation even higher.
I haven't walked away from anything, and inflation is my greatest concern.
Add to that the Supreme Court limiting the EPA's ability to regulate carbon emissions from power plants, the nation's second largest source of the gases driving climate change.
What do those two developments do to President Biden's climate agenda?
Well, there's no sugarcoating it. They are major setbacks.
Biden hoped to cut U.S. greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. Polls show a majority of Americans, 65%, are worried about global warming. But only 1% of voters say climate change is the top issue facing the country. Among voters under 30, that number rises only to 3%.
Climate change always seems to be the issue that we can put off until tomorrow. Are we at the point that we can no longer put off acting on climate change?
We absolutely should not be putting off action on climate change. 30 years ago, it was a problem for the future. It is a problem for now.
President Biden is promising executive action, but climate activists believe without Congress acting to speed up wind and solar installations and electric vehicle purchases, it won't be enough.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
Okay, so climate change. Stephen, why isn't it real enough for us to do something about it? And why does the president have to do an emergency act?
Because he doesn't have to do an emergency act. He shouldn't do an emergency act. It gives the president too much power right now. When anytime that a president like him, that's an authoritarian, does another emergency act, watch out. This is not good for America. We're about 85% on oil and natural gas and everything else. We're not ready for this. This is not something they should.
We're not ready for what?
Wait a minute.
What are we not ready for?
We're not ready for the green agenda. We're not ready for it yet. It's ridiculous. We are a petroleum country. We were rolling under Trump. All we need to do is for Biden to go back and do what Trump did.
What about the air quality? What about the warming of
what Trump was doing for this country, we're in trouble.
Okay, so wait a minute. It's interesting you said that. I want to share my screen because I want you to see what people around the world, it's not just the country, it's the world. So according to this article by the New York Times.com, the UN, United Nations, not the United States,
they don't care
the United Nations chief warns that humanity faces collective suicide over a climate crisis. This article was written by Jesus Jimenez on July 18th, which was yesterday at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
You lost him at UN, and then you definitely lost him at Jesus.
The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres issued a dire warning yesterday to representatives from 40, not one, 40 countries at the Petersburg Climate Dialogue, calling for more concrete action to tackle what he called climate emergency. He said, we have a choice. Collective action or collective suicide. It is in our hands. Why don't you agree with that, Stephen?
Because we don't have the choice, because there's other countries that are hundreds times worse than us. China and India are horrible, and they don't have to adhere to anything. This is just to hurt the West. This is to hurt the United States. That's all this agenda is with climate change. Because when we do oil, we do natural gas, or we can do anything, or we do the cleanest of any country in the world. We're going to have to go right now to Saudi Arabia and other countries and beg them to produce more oil in a more dirty way. Nobody cares about the climate on the left. It's all a lie. It's just another way to control the world and to control this country and have high gas prices. And there's no way we're going to solar and wind or anything else that's going to sustain this country. It's going to kill this country.
Okay, Keith, why are you clapping?
Because he wants to get married to him, and he figures if he claps for him, he'll marry him.
Stephen is absolutely right, and I would add to it that if the climate was really so bad that it's going to kill the whole world, then there's not a damn thing that anybody's going to be able to do about it. Only
we can't stop polluting.
And their whole thing is that they have dismissed God, the creator of all mankind and of the climate. So you think that you are greater than God and you're going to be able to change this climate? You are stupid. You are a
Wait,
fool.
wait,
They're
wait.
just
They are.
fools.
This
They're
is
just
how
fools,
backwards.
man. They're just
Okay, listen to me carefully. This is how backwards you people are. Now, you're talking about God. Now, unfortunately for you, you're in this fake religion. But uh, the commandments say, well, not the commandments you read, because you've only read 10 commandments, and there are actually 42 commandments. I know you don't know that. I'm speaking another language for you. But one of those 42 commandments are do no harm to the land God gave you. This is why the Africans did not tear up the land. They were smarter than these people are today. They didn't tear up the land because that was a commandment not to. But when you start drilling and harming the land, then you're doing harm. So what you're going to get is bad air. I think he's trying to talk. I hope he's on mute. What you're going to get is what you're having now. This is why they've been wearing masks in China for years, because the air quality is so poor, which was what happened with Keith in California. The smog was everywhere. So now that that's halfway cleared up, you think you're safe now, but we're continuing to do the same things. This is why the planet is overheated.
Okay, so
What's the weather like right now where you live?
well,
We're
he's
in
on
a
mute.
heat
They can't
wave.
talk. We're
We're
in
in
a
a
heat
heat
wave.
wave in Philadelphia and New Jersey and surrounding areas.
Okay, so I'm
The
forgetting his
cleanest,
name.
the cleanest energy.
The Secretary General. The Secretary General says that, if you can see this, half of humanity is in the danger zone from floods, droughts, extreme storms, and wildfires. No nation is immune. So, in facing this global crisis, he says, we are failing to work together as a multilateral community. Nations continue to play the blame game instead of taking responsibility for our collective future. Stephen, you got to take responsibility. We all
No,
do.
they're
Every
just
country.
scientists. What do they know? They're crazy
listen,
scientists.
Stacy. If there's countries that don't have to adjust anything they do, they can be the biggest pollutants in the world. Todd was right. People for decades have had to wear masks, real masks over their face because the air is so bad. So do smart people like Todd think that bad air over there doesn't come here because we don't do any manufacturing or anything here? We don't do stuff here. Because the fact that they do it in Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, and they drill for oil, we're asking them for more oil. And China's doing what they do. And India's going to take over China in population soon. And they're still a third world country, so they don't have to adhere to the garbage we do. Does he think that all these other countries that are making all these pollutants that are tearing up the world, and China's the worst, and they don't get punished for it, does he think that's not going to make its way to the entire world? Does he know anything about this planet? Because when other people in other countries destroy their individual part of their world, it affects us. Don't you understand that, Todd?
This is why the UN
that in America that we're going to have to try to drive electric cars or walk everywhere or walk on our hands because we can't use our feet anymore because of global warming.
Not walk on
We
your
have to walk on
hands.
our hands.
See, now you sound like Donald
sounds
Trump.
stupid now. We have to have solar panels.
Walking
no,
on
we've
your
got
hands
oil.
is not
We have
stupid.
oil. We have a natural gas. Because we could do more nuclear
We know what
than
we
do.
have.
Your
Steven.
solutions are bad. That's why you lose. That's why you're going to
The
lose.
solutions
You don't have.
are
We have
bad.
solutions on my
Cleaning
side.
up
You don't have
the-
solutions.
What are your solutions,
My solution
Steven?
is drill, baby, drill, like we did with Donald
You
Trump.
see?
We're gonna have gas at $1.89 a gallon, even in New Jersey.
But what about the air quality? Who cares?
The air quality was fine. We have cars, we have manufacturers, we have gas that make everything better than they can in China or Venezuela or Russia. We have the technology to do things cleaner, Todd.
All right.
But we need coal.
I've got to move on.
We need coal. We need oil. We need all of this stuff.
Right.
We're not ready to switch over yet.
Coal is
Maybe in
outdated.
100 years
When
we are,
will
but we're not
be?
yet.
In 100
You're
years.
being
right?
foolish. You're being played.
Palestinians and Israelis deserve equal measure of freedom, security, prosperity, and dignity. The United States will continue to work with the Palestinian leadership, with the government of Israel, and with all our international partners to ensure that East Jerusalem's hospital network retains sustainable, remains available, and is able to provide high-quality care the Palestinian people deserve.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out these other videos from USA Today to stay up to date with all the latest news.
Okay, I'll start with you, Cousin Todd. And then I have to do another quick trip. President Biden took a foreign trip, and he went to the Middle East. He went to Israel. He went to Palestine. What do you think about that trip? I'm not even going to ask Todd a specific question.
You know what?
Saudi Arabia.
He had to do that.
That's coming up next. Saudi Arabia is coming up next, Keith.
Yeah, he had to do that. Being president is not easy. And you have to do some things that you don't necessarily like. But you have to stay in touch with the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia is where it's at. And so, though what they did to Khashoggi was horrendous, rotten, terrible, and the president said so. And he said he believes the king had it done or approved it. So, that being said, he went over there to try to make a deal to get more oil here. And in case you didn't realize, the price of oil has gone down. Anybody noticed the price of gas at the gas pump?
Yeah, it's temporary.
It's gone down. So aren't we glad about that? Stacey did not ask this week for some strange reason. How much are you paying for gas, Stephen?
Well, I didn't get to it yet.
I
didn't get to it yet. How much are you paying for gas per gallon in Virginia, Stephen?
Over $4, $4.30, $4.45, something like that. I'm not exactly sure because, like I said before, I don't pay for my gas.
Oh, okay.
I just go up, they pump it, they give me a ice cold water.
Between $6 and $7 still.
Oh, that went down because remember you said it was $10, Keith.
No,
a while ago you said it was $10. You said it was $9 something a gallon.
$9, and then it went down. It went from $9, and now it's down to about $7 or $6.
JP Morgan said it could triple. JP Morgan said it could triple.
We've been using our reserves, all of our
So
reserves.
let's talk. So I'm paying.
Stacey, before you say what you're paying, if you listen to Keith, who is certifiably insane.
No, he's not.
He said, "Oh, we were paying almost $10. Then we were paying $9. Then we were paying $8. Then we were paying $7."
It's still too much, Todd. Todd, it's not $3 or $4.
You're completely
Todd,
crazy.
It's still too much.
And your boyfriend
They don't
keeps trying to
understand this,
back
Steve.
you up. You can't back crazy.
It's
All right.
still too
So
much
I
to pay
am-
for a gallon of gas.
So I am paying like $4.25 in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware area. I want to show you the AlJazeera.com has 5 takeaways, or a few takeaways from President Biden's Middle Eastern trip. 5 takeaways from President Biden's first trip to the Middle East. Did you notice, Keith, that President Biden did not go to the Middle East as his first trip as president? He waited a year, whereas President Trump, his first trip as president, went to the Middle East.
Oh yeah, I noticed.
And then President Trump is also he's hosting a Saudi Arabian delegation at his Bedminster, New Jersey resort for a golf trip during this horrible time. Do you think that's appropriate?
I guess. I don't know what the significance of it is. I really don't.
A lot of people are asking him not to because they feel as though the Middle East had something to do with 9/11, which affected a lot of people in the area of the Bedminster, New Jersey area, as well as Trump, because, 9/11 hit New York. So a lot of people are asking him not to do it, but he's doing it anyway. What were you going to say, Stephen?
You talking about Donald Trump playing golf somewhere and people are getting upset about it?
No, he's hosting a Saudi Arabian delegation at his.
Right, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear that. They didn't tell me.
Bedminster resort, and a lot of the people who were affected by 9/11 don't believe he should do that as a past president. So let's look at this article.
I've got no comment on that.
I don't know.
Five takeaways. 5 takeaways.
I didn't hear nothing about it, so I don't got no comment.
It's a golf tournament. I really don't care.
One takeaway is Biden puts on a pro-Israel display. The other one is, and you can agree or not agree, U.S. Israel present a united front against Iran. And it's really interesting that they would do that, considering President Putin had a meeting with the Iranian leader not too long ago. Also, another takeaway is that there was a push for normalization turns incremental. They're pushing for normalization, to have a normal relationship between Israel and Arab countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, which he went to next, which we'll talk about. But also there was a push for better health care for the Palestinians, right? So let me play
about better health care for the Americans.
Republicans don't want that.
Yeah,
remember?
We want better health care. We want better health care. I'm not a Republican, but
listen to me carefully.
President Biden is meeting Gulf leaders today from 6 nations as he continues his historic trip to the Middle East. He's already held talks with Saudi Prince Salman. The White House says the murder of the Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi was raised during the discussions. The CIA concluded that the Crown Prince had approved the killing, something the Saudi state has vehemently denied. Our Middle East correspondent Anna Foster is in Jeddah, and she says Mr. Biden's meeting with the Crown Prince did involve a change in policy.
He said that he wouldn't meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Even 4 weeks ago, he said that he was only coming here for the summit of the Gulf Cooperation Council. And yet we saw that meeting yesterday between the two leaders. Remember, Joe Biden, from his time on the election campaign trail, had talked about Saudi Arabia as a pariah because of the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist who was brutally murdered in the consulate in Istanbul back in 2018. He, in the first weeks of his presidency, refused to communicate with Saudi Arabia in that time when they normally do a round of talks and introductions with different world leaders. And this was something that I raised in the early hours of the morning when I sat down and interviewed Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Adel bin Abad al-Jubeir. And I asked him about not just that pariah comment, what he thought of it, but why he thought Joe Biden had changed his mind and decided to come here and have that meeting.
What happens in a political campaign generally doesn't survive the reality of being in office. Because in office you have access to information, you have access to advisors, you have access to intelligence, and you are governing and conducting the affairs of government. President Trump said things about Saudi Arabia during the campaign, but then when he was in office, we had a great relationship with him. So what happens in campaigns is what I call happens during the silly season.
Many of his critics would have preferred that he didn't come here and have this meeting in the first place. He's been forced to justify it repeatedly. He said that he wanted to raise human rights issues, that stability in the Middle East and America's part in that is important, because don't forget, countries like Russia and China are eyeing this part of the world and trying to build their own influence here. So he spent time saying why he needed to do this. But I think the optics of this trip, the photo that we saw last night of Joe Biden and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman fist bumping in the royal palace, that will do very little to try and quell some of the criticism that he's received. I think for him, what would be seen as a win now from this trip, particularly to Saudi Arabia, is if he can try and get some concessions on oil, and he'll be pursuing that today at the Gulf Cooperation Council summit.
So as you see, Stephen, you heard the representatives from Saudi Arabia. Actually, he spent a lot of time in the United States. I remember seeing him at the Saudi Arabian embassy in Washington, D.C. He said, during campaigns, people say a lot of things that they can't really
back
keep.
up.
They can't back up because they're presidents and they don't have access to things that they have when they're presidents. So wouldn't you agree with that? But then
And
the
he
question
called
would
it
be,
silly season.
but the question would be then, why would Trump host a Saudi Arabian group of people
Because
to golf
Biden said weeks ago he's not going to have anything to do with him. He's not going to have anything to do with this guy.
Oh,
He's not
see,
gonna
he just
he's not
switched.
going to legitimize
The
him.
question was not about Biden.
I'll
Donald
get to Trump in a
Trump.
minute. I'll get to Trump in a minute.
I'll get to
Nobody
him.
has ever, no president, let me mute him. No president has ever flip-flopped more than Joe Biden when he said, I'm going to make them a pariah. I don't want anything to do with them. He said it for months. He didn't say it one time before.
You didn't ask him about
Todd,
Biden.
stop talking.
Can
Todd,
you keep him on
Todd,
track?
go to your corner.
Answer
Todd,
the question.
go to your corner. Can anybody mute him? His team, I believe Joe Biden's team is sabotaging him. For him to flip-flop as strongly as he did, he's going to fist bump a guy like they're brothers. Like, that's huge. When he fist bumped that leader, he let that guy, he legitimized him. And what he did, he'll never have to apologize for doing it, and he'll do it again because Joe Biden said, it's cool. You're my brother. We brothers now. Joe Biden said, I will not talk to him. I will not have anything to do with him. I will make him the scourge of the earth. But then he went and did that and legitimized him. There was no reason to do it. We don't need Saudi Arabia to help Israel.
He never answered your question, Stacey. He never answered your question.
Who cares if Trump is not the president? Who cares if Trump has people playing golf?
Whenever you ask me a question, I'm going to say, googly moogly shangla boogly, babani shubala boomity kakashina doki chaka.
Donald Trump's not the president. Joe Biden is the president. Not, I see what you're trying to do, but Donald Trump is not the president. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump does.
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to answer your question.
He's not the president.
I don't care what you ask me.
He's not the president.
You ask me.
Joe Biden is.
What are you having for dinner? I'll tell you about the weather in China.
Okay, go ahead, Keith. I got to let Keith in this.
Why are you obsessed with Donald Trump?
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, all I can say is that whatever we should have some type of relations with all of these, some type of relations with different countries. Okay, I don't know what exactly because I'm not the one in charge, but I'm not privy to all of the intelligence that the president have and what Trump have. Can you mute him while we're finishing? Because how come he never gets muted?
With your future.
You're going to have to mute him if you want some intelligence conversation here. That's the only way we're going to have it. But all I can say is that, again, we have to have some relationships with some types of other countries. And Trump is the great negotiator. Obviously, he proved that for 4 years. He was a better negotiator than Biden is ever going to be. And that's obvious. You can see where he has negotiated all kinds of good deals. So we'll see how this turns out. That's all we can do. That's all we can say is we'll see how it turns out. They seem to respect Trump a lot better. So I'd rather Trump talk to those wicked people than I would Biden talk to them, because they would definitely run over Biden.
Okay. All right.
By the way,
Let's
the
see.
Palestinians, somebody had a sign up in that video, and it said Palestinian lives matter. Boy, they sure steal a lot of our thunder. They take everything from the United States.
All lives matter. So it's okay if they say Palestinian or Jewish or black or Caucasian. All lives matter.
Well, you could get into trouble for
The Homeland Security Inspector General says the Secret Service erased many agent text messages from the day of the Capitol riot and the day before as part of a program to upgrade cell phones. In a letter to Congress, the IG says the messages were erased after his office asked for records of electronic communications.
We're going to get to the facts about why that happened, and we're going to do whatever we can to retrieve the substance of those texts.
Both the IG and the Secret Service agree that some texts were wiped out when the agency began a long-planned migration program to upgrade cell phones. But the Secret Service says the IG didn't begin asking for the material until late February after the migration was underway, and it says none of the texts the IG was seeking had been lost. Secret Service policy forbids communicating by text, so both officials and agents say there won't be much to find anyway, but now that's hard to confirm.
Somebody at a senior level within the Secret Service should have said, you know what, let's hit pause, because after what happened on January 6th, including the days just before it and just after it, someone's going to ask for that stuff.
Meantime, an official connected with the January 6th committee says a Washington, D.C. police officer has corroborated an earlier account of what President Trump did after the rally, angrily demanding that the Secret Service drive him to the Capitol instead of back to the White House.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now."
Today, former Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne met with committee investigators. He was at a heated mid-December White House meeting about trying to overturn the election. Some committee members say they're also considering getting testimony from both Donald Trump and Mike Pence.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
Okay, Stephen, this is pointing more and more to President Trump doing something illegal or his actions were kind of insinuating or trying to start more of a riot that had not even begun. Correct? Oh, I'm sorry. You were on mute. You're off of mute now. Sorry about that.
Donald Trump hasn't done anything wrong. It's been proven over and over. The FBI said about 2 years ago that Donald Trump did nothing to invite what a so-called insurrection that was not an insurrection. There was an insurrection in Minneapolis and in parts of Seattle, I do believe, when they took over police stations for weeks and told the police they're not allowed to come there. Those are real insurrections. This was a couple hour, little bit of a riot, didn't even cause that much damage, maybe a few $1,000s, but there was billions and billions of dollars that were lost because of the 2000 to 2022 or whatever it was, or not, whatever the years were, when they were rioting all over this country. So for this 9/11 thing, it's nothing but another impeachment of Donald Trump that's not real. That's a bunch of garbage. They're scared to death that he's going to run again because they know if they don't cheat, he's going to win by a landslide, just like when Ronald Reagan won. If they don't cheat, Donald Trump, they know this. The left knows this. He will win by a landslide. He'll probably get California. He'll probably get Hawaii. He'll probably get all the states, New York, that people like, just like Ronald Reagan got a bunch of states they said he'll never get. The whole country saw what the left is bringing to us. We don't want it.
So,
even I voted for Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders because I was scared of Trump at the time. But Joe Biden was supposed to be moderate. He's not. He is Bernie Sanders. He is the left. He is AOC. And this country doesn't like it. And they're going to destroy them. Now, they're going to try to use the abortion issue, but I think that'll fizzle by the time November gets here. I really do. And I think that the Republicans, if they can be good Republicans, are going to take over, hopefully.
Okay, Keith?
Yes, I would say that, this January 6th, first of all, the January 6th incident was just all it was an incident. We've had small incidents before. I would question, however, I mean, I can't back it up with facts, but I would question personally the people who did show any kind of violent tendencies, whether they were really on Donald Trump's side. I really would question that, or whether they were plants, because there were some definite plants in there, people that were troublemakers, as there usually is. And you can't compare them with the Black Lives Matter riots, where they took over police stations, they burned down police stations, and did that sort of thing over in Seattle. I mean, come on, they occupied a certain territory with rifles, guns. They had ammunition, they had guns, they had rifles, they had AK-47s, all of those kinds of assault weapons, all of the things that the left complains about they had, and nobody said anything. Isn't that interesting, Stephen?
It's very interesting. It's the way it is.
I want to share.
It's one way.
Yeah.
I want to share this with you and ask you this question. It says the January 6th committee. This is CNN.com. The January 6th committee. Secret Service gives thousands of documents to the January 6th committee, but hasn't yet received potentially missing texts. This article was written today, updated at 6:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And basically what it's saying, the U.S. Secret Service produced an initial set of documents to the House Select Committee investigating this January 6, 2021 insurrection. They gave that, but they didn't give these texts. So where are the texts and why are they hiding them?
You know, here's another scandal that everything is always with the left. Everything always ends up to be some kind of big plot or some conspiracy. I mean, look, didn't they just say in the report that it's forbidden, or in other words, it's against their rules to even use text? So I don't even know how important that is. But it is interesting to find out that, you know, if they do find those texts, how many of them might not work in their favor, but might work against them. So maybe that's what they really want to see, was how many texts they could use.
Well, it says that the Department of Homeland Security has previously said that it will comply with the subpoena request by the January 6th committee, saying in a statement that the department has ensured and will continue to ensure that both the DHS Office of the Inspector General and the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol have the information they requested. It said, we did get a briefing from the Inspector General of Homeland Security, Representative Logren said, and then there was a statement made by the spokesperson for the department saying that it wasn't true, it wasn't fair, and that they in fact had pertinent texts. And we go, fine, if you have them, we need them, and we expect to get them by this Tuesday, so we'll see. And they haven't produced them. So how can you hold an entire department under Homeland Security, United States Secret Service, in contempt of Congress?
Can I answer?
Go ahead.
There's multiple hours of video that they're not releasing, that the Capitol Police should release. There's multiple hours that they're not showing. There's things that will bring all of this to light that they're not showing because it's a one-way kangaroo court. That's all it is. That's right. It's a bunch of garbage to go against Donald Trump, to make his supporters cower, to make Donald Trump cower, but it's not going to work because you can keep people in jail for a year and a half and not give them hardly any water or any food, keep them in solitary confinement and beat them like they've been doing their political prisoners in our own country in Washington, D.C. jail. So we can do this to these people, but we can't stand up as all of us people and say, when these people that are not being treated right, we're just gonna turn our backs. Why are we gonna do this in this country? This is what's happening. If you're not on the right political side, you're gonna be destroyed. That's wrong.
Stephen, what about all the videos? And Stephen, what about all the videos that I'm sure that people must have been taking while they were?
They won't let them be shown. They won't let any of these videos be shown. So when we win in 2022, Keith, all of this is going to come to light, and you're going to see what really happened at the Capitol that day. They had it under control in 2 hours.
Really
if it was so bad, it would have taken months. It would have taken months to
How do you just let them babble on without giving any truth or facts?
Okay, so
gave
here
all
I
the
am
truth, I
giving
gave
the
all the
truth.
facts, and the
Excuse me,
show was
I'm giving
better when
Shut
you
truth
were in
and
the
up,
facts.
bathroom.
Stephen. Shut up. You
The
sound
show
like a
was
Excuse me.
better when you were
maniac.
in the bathroom,
I'm
Todd.
giving the truth and facts with the article. So this article by the New York Times, and you see who it's by, Zolan Kano-Youngs and Maggie Haberman, on July 19th, today at 8:16 p.m. It's now 8:42. They updated. They said the Secret Service has said that missing text messages were purged as a part of a technology update and were not related to its work around the events of January 6th. Cousin Todd, do you want to comment and maybe tell our viewers what that means and why are the text messages of any importance?
Well, because text messages is how you find out what actually happened. And so for them to purge after they were asked for those messages tells you exactly what they did. They got rid of them. Now, this isn't anything new for we do this kind of a thing all the time. You might remember when JFK was killed. Stephen and Keith definitely remembers because they're much older than we are. Nevertheless, the Secret Service had death threats way back then before he was assassinated that they did not take seriously. I don't know if that was deliberate or not, but those records came up missing. Another purge. So this is nothing new for the Secret Service. They do this so that you don't know what's going on. And so for them to try and get rid of the evidence isn't going to work. And someone asked a question, now were they Trump Secret Service or were they Pence Secret Service? And I think you know whose Secret Service that was. Trump's. All of a sudden, no text messages. So, and it's amazing how these Trump supporters, they don't look at any evidence. They don't do anything. For example, what the trial has revealed, not the trial, but the what do you call what they were having? The information they were putting out about January 6th. All of these things are said by Republicans. No Democrats. These are all Republicans telling what they know. And so there's never any shift. It's dead fast. Oh, Trump did nothing. Oh, these people are in jail, not getting any food. All that is silly. Did they tell you they're not getting any food? Of course not. That's something made up on the internet. Did you
I
know
didn't
it's
say they
against the
weren't getting
law
any food.
to starve people in jail?
I
Did
didn't
you
say
know
that.
that? So,
I didn't say
okay.
that.
So they're not starving. The people who are in jail committed crimes.
Nope.
And according to Stephen and Keith, if
Nope.
you commit a crime, you go to jail.
They did not.
If you're in the building
I'm running
and
out
you're
of
not
time.
supposed to be there, you're committing a crime.
For a year and a half, they're in jail without representation. For a year and a half.
They all have representation.
No, they do not.
That
they're
is
not
against
getting
the law.
They're not getting the proper representation that they should be
the
getting.
proper.
No, they're not.
Now he's using keywords.
I think
It is
Stephen
against the
is
law.
saying that they're not getting everything they should get, but
Right.
that they do get legal representation.
No,
Now,
no, they
he's
don't. They don't
too
get.
dumb
They
to
don't
know
get.
that they have to have that. It's against the law not to
They
give it
don't-
to them.
Yeah, but because
Okay.
of all of the rules that they have there, they haven't been getting the time to be with their lawyers and the time that
Oh,
they need.
stop it,
because they're
Stephen. You
using
just
COVID
make that
because
up.
of it. I'm dropping the
making that
truth on
up.
you, Todd.
First, you said they
I'm
have no
telling you the truth.
representation, and since you found out that it's against the law to do that,
No,
well,
Todd,
they
they
just
don't
don't
get
have
the
enough time with
representation
them.
they're supposed
Get
to.
out of
They don't
here.
get the food they're supposed to. They don't get the water they're supposed to. They don't
Oh,
get
gosh.
treated the way they're supposed to because they're political prisoners, Todd. Because they support Donald Trump, Todd, and they're in the wrong prison, Todd.
You're crazy,
You want that in your
Stephen.
country, Todd?
You need mental
Todd,
health,
I didn't want
Stephen.
it. If it was you in jail, I'd be just as mad.
Oh,
I don't
get
want
out of
this in our
here.
country. You do.
You and Keith
because
would
you're
say,
the
well, you
problem.
break the law, you belong
You're
in
the
jail.
problem. You're the problem, Todd. These people
No,
are being treated
it's
worse
you
than
in the dark
anything they
web.
did.
Last
They're
Thursday,
being
a federal
treated
grand
worse than
jury handed
murderers.
down 27
They're
charges
not.
against the alleged top
They
shooter.
are.
And today, he was back in federal court to formally enter a plea.
The judge also gave some idea of the schedule of what's to come. Channel 2's Ron Plants was in the courtroom for us again today.
While there was a bomb-sniffing dog and the Federal Protective Police presence outside the federal courthouse today, still much less of that than for the suspect's appearance in June. Also less media. The defendant, seen here in a previous state court appearance, said nothing today as his federal public defender entered a not guilty plea for him, but also said they would hope to resolve this case before it goes to trial. None of them would comment about that in-court remark afterwards to reporters. The federal judge said today there was, quote, a voluminous amount of information that prosecutors would have to hand over to the federal public defenders. That means actually several terabytes of electronic and digital evidence gathered by investigators in this case, and the defense needs time to review it all. The judge setting another conference for December to assess progress. The mother of one of the wounded victims, Zaire Goodman, says she understands.
The prosecutors know what they're doing, and I think that I'd rather it take longer. You know, I want to make sure that, you know, they have all of the evidence. My preference would just be for him to plead guilty.
What's justice for you? Life imprisonment or?
For me, it's life imprisonment. But like I said before, if the U.S. Attorney, if the Attorney General decides, you know, to seek the death penalty, then I support that.
While other family members did not wish to speak today, some appeared to be leaning towards the death penalty in comments after the suspect's first federal court appearance. Overall, being in court with him still an ordeal some are willing to endure.
The same feeling from the first time I saw him. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm heartbroken. I mean, he came in and tried to destroy my community. So my feelings about him have not changed at all. I'm still disgusted by his presence, but I'm going to be there.
One last note, Everhart says she was back shopping in that reopened top store this weekend because it's part of her community. Ron Plants, Channel 2 News.
Did you hear them say, Stephen, he has a public defender, and he's a mass murderer. So it is against the law to withhold public defenders, lawyers from a United States citizen. Now, moving on, this criminal.
This is our round table, so make your point really quick because we're going to start with
well,
Keith.
I'm not going to make it really quick.
Keith and Stephen.
But do you want it really quick because so then let Keith start. No, this.
So let Keith start.
I'm just making a comment. So this murderer should not even be able to walk into a courtroom because he should be filled full of holes. They should have killed him. But he happened to be white. And when you are white and a mass murderer, you do not get killed. Now, if you are black and you run a stop sign, you get killed. If you're black and you're jaywalking,
if you're black and you
murder
forget to
for
brush
you,
your teeth,
according to say
brush
what?
your teeth, kids. If
What?
you're black and you forget to brush your teeth, they kill you. So brush your teeth, kids.
So
You're not making any
anyway,
sense, God.
you get killed if you are
Don't
selling
put your glasses
cigarettes.
on straight.
If you're
If you don't put
selling
your glasses on
cigarettes
straight.
on a corner, you get killed.
Yeah.
But if you're a white boy and you kill a mass of niggers, oh, you're fine. Sir, this is how they talk to you. Sir, question for you. Would you please
I'm
lay
sure the
down
people
on
who
the
died,
ground
Todd, do not
so
want to
that
be
I can
referred
put
to the
these
way you
handcuffs
referred
on
to
you,
them.
Mr.
I'm sure the people
Please?
who died don't want to be
Or
called
they'll
that.
say, sir, I'm sorry, but I have to handcuff you if you don't mind. I'm going. What did they say to the man laying after just killing these people at a parade? Sir, could you please lay down and let us handcuff you? Or if you go to a church and kill up 9 people, black people, of course, sir, I'm going to have to put some handcuffs on you. And then the murderer says, oh, but you know what, guys? Favor from you. I'm starving. I'm famished. You know, works up a lot of appetite killing. So if you don't mind, could you run me past a fast food joint? Now I don't have any money because I didn't have time to rob these people before I killed them. So could you, if you don't mind, oh sure, we'll take you. Where do you like? Burger King? We'll take you there and get you a whole meal. Are you kidding me? This is a murderer. And this is how they do with murderers, white boys who murder black people. Stacey, we can't hear you.
Thank you. I put myself on mute. We're running out of time. We have to do our roundtable. We always start with Keith, then Stephen, then Cousin Todd. So, Keith, why is it that this gun, it's still out of control? The family of, and I'm going to share my screen so you can see this.
And why don't they kill these murderers when they shoot black people by the dozen?
The family.
Why is it the white boys never get killed?
The family of Tekel Sundberg wrote his name in chalk during a vigil for the 20-year-old Thursday, July 14th, outside the apartment building where he was killed by Minneapolis police in Minneapolis. Minneapolis police officers shot and killed Sundberg early Thursday after an overnight standoff that began after he allegedly fired shots inside an apartment building on the city's south side. So they don't know why the officers who isolated him for hours suddenly felt like he needed to be executed, wrote civil rights lawyers Ben Crump and Jeff Storms. Why are people just killing these people like these lives don't matter? All lives matter. Keith?
Well, it's obvious that we have evil in the world. And when evil shows itself, good men and women ought to do something. We ought to be trained. That's why I say we ought to be carrying. We ought to be prepared.
Police are trained.
Like that 22-year-old who just recently shot a 20-year-old who was shooting people in a mass. I guess it was in the mall. And yeah, that was just a recent one where the 22-year-old saved the day. It wasn't a police officer that shot him. So to answer Todd's question.
But did you know that 22-year-old was not supposed to have that gun? Did you know that?
So Todd, you are worried about people, why the bad guys, the murderers, when they're white, why they're not killed. But then if somebody comes and kills them, then now you get upset about that too. Again, why would he not be killed if somebody like Stephen or myself could carry a weapon, and if we could just take them out right there? I would love to, just say that is something that needs to happen more often, because police are not always ready to do it. As you saw in Uvalde, the police were not able to they didn't do anything for about an hour. So there you go, right there. That's the reason. And also, one other observation, I guess that was the mother, the black woman that was making the comment in the video. Was that a mother? Well, it's interesting to note that she said if the attorney general seeks the death penalty, she's okay with it. So I thought that was interesting. But yet, if he doesn't seek the death penalty, I guess she'd still be okay with it. But the point is, she is saying that if he seeks the death penalty, which is what he should seek, then she's okay with it. And that's the way that should happen. They should seek the death penalty. And the murderer who walks in the courtroom, they ought to take that damn mask off of him, because you want to be able to see his facial expression while he's sitting there. The jury needs to see his facial expressions. I think that's stupid to have suspects in the courtroom with a mask on. That's just my problem.
Thank you. Stephen?
No shadow of any doubt. And we can 100% agree this guy did it. He should be punished. Then the Muslims have it right sometimes. We should chop his head off, and everybody should be able to see it. And then the next person who wants to do this to somebody is going to think twice. Do I want my head being chopped off on TV? I think it's going to be a good thing for me? Am I going to be a legend? Am I going to be some kind of, is everybody going to write to me when I'm in prison? No. You can have your head cut off. So and it doesn't matter. You cut his head off, and then maybe the next white guy will say, I don't want to kill no black people. And maybe the next black guy will say, I don't want to kill no black white people. I don't want to kill anybody. Maybe everybody will say, I don't want to kill nobody because these people are cutting their heads off. Instead of like you put them, for 20 years, you put them in a jail cell, and you say, we're going to kill them one day. And then all the time they go to college, they get 15 degrees. They do whatever they want. They're watching TV, and they're going out, and they're having sexual partners come in. Cut their heads off. Once you know they did it, take their heads off, televise it, charge money on pay-per-view, and let's just leave it at that, or hang them or whatever you think is more appropriate. But people who do stuff like that, and we know they do it, and there's no question, then they should die a horrible death, and people should see it, and more people would not do things like this. That's how you
thank you.
All of that enthusiasm. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Cousin Todd.
Okay.
Todd agrees.
What I was trying to say is I don't mean to make you contradict yourself, because you just talked about how they're prisoners of war and they can't get food and they can't get water and they can't get representation. Then you turned right around and said they have all kinds of boyfriends and they go to college and they get their education and they go to...
The murderers.
Which is it?
The murderers. It's the people who murder people who get all the perks.
And then also you talked about Sharia law, and they commit Sharia law, all the Muslims.
Now, I didn't say all the
Now you're
Muslims.
saying-
I didn't say
now
that.
you're saying
I
they're
didn't
right
say
about
that.
Sharia law.
I love Muslims. I love Muslims. I didn't say that.
Can't with you.
I
You're
didn't
just a
say that.
contradiction walking.
No. But
So
some Muslims
anyway-
cut heads off. They cut heads off.
You see what I'm saying? Anyway, to go to Keith's point about the woman agreeing with the attorney general, no, she said she would prefer life in prison. That's what she said. But if the attorney general seeks the death penalty, I support it. That's what she said. So don't make her out to be something she's not. She would be satisfied with life in prison. That's all she said, which we have already heard her say it. Nevertheless, what kills me is Black people are shot 40 and 50 times in situations where they're running away from the police, unarmed. But white boys that shoot masses of people get to surrender and take a nice joyride and maybe get a snack on the way to jail if they're hungry and all. And it's just amazing how this happens. And Keith and Stephen, they're fine with it.
Conservative. Stephen, the independent thinker.
Stephen is not the independent thinker, and your voice is going in and out, so I had to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. And my cousin Todd, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
I'm Stacey Johnson. Let's keep this conversation going on Twitter, and we will see you here next week. Good night.
Good night, crazies. Bye-bye, crackpots.
Bye, everybody. Good show. Y'all did great. Aguna who? We missed Aguna. Aguna's eating